The freighter Auriga trembled as alarms screamed through the dark. The hull groaned like a wounded animal. Kai Mercer said, "She's bleeding from the spine." Red strobes cut across frost on the bulkheads. Mara Elgin said, "Focus on breath, then act." The viewport filled with a fractured moon and a drifting distress buoy. Talia Ree said, "That beacon wasn't here yesterday." Static crackled, then a voice whispered coordinates that should not exist. Rohan Tarek said, "We jump or we die." Kai stared at the throttle and felt old ghosts take his hands. Lysandra Voss spoke from memory, a taunt he could not silence. Kai Mercer said, "No more wars." The ship pitched as debris scraped past like nails. Mara Elgin said, "Refusing to fight doesn't mean refusing to live." The buoy pulsed again, brighter, closer, as if it chose them. Kai Mercer said, "Hold steady and listen." Silence fell after the buoy dimmed, and the crew listened to the throb of a tired reactor. Kai Mercer said, "Plot a drift toward the coordinates, no jump." Mara Elgin said, "Slow is safe, and safe is alive." A ghostly trail lingered where the pulse had been. "Talia Ree," said the buoy, felt like a lure. Rohan Tarek said, "Or a warning for those who still hear." The fractured moon slid behind them like a closing door. Kai studied the sensor ghosts and counted breaths to steady old aches. Memories scraped at him like shrapnel in the dark. Mara Elgin said, "You are here, not there." The ship's bones settled and the alarms finally fell quiet. Outside, the void waited with patient teeth. Kai Mercer said, "We proceed, but we do not provoke." The mess hall smelled of boiled synth coffee and cold metal. Kai Mercer said, "Every map is a lie drawn by survivors." Mara Elgin said, "Then redraw until it stops hurting." Talia Ree said, "I saw a station in the pulse, like a heartbeat trapped in steel." Rohan Tarek said, "Stations do not beat unless someone makes them." The screen replayed the buoy's wave, a red ring expanding and fading. Kai lifted his cup and watched his hand like it belonged to a stranger. Mara Elgin said, "You kept us alive by refusing the rush." The walls hummed with the soft ache of distance. Talia Ree said, "If it is a trap, we learn its music first." Kai Mercer said, "We learn, then choose." The crew nodded as if agreeing with weather. The Auriga drifted through a graveyard of panels and bones of ships. Talia Ree said, "These scars are recent." Rohan Tarek said, "Whoever fought here finished yesterday." Kai Mercer said, "We touch nothing unless it touches us." A cracked emblem turned slowly, a symbol he once saluted. Mara Elgin said, "Grief returns when it hears its name." The buoy's voice returned, softer now, layered with whispers. Kai imagined a hand reaching from a sealed room. Rohan Tarek said, "Signal carries a heartbeat." Talia Ree said, "Or a mimic that learned to breathe." The ship lights dimmed for power savings. Kai Mercer said, "Warm the shields without the show." The whisper resolved into coordinates mapped onto a dead sector. Kai Mercer said, "That route was sealed after the treaty." Mara Elgin said, "Seals fail when hunger returns." A name appeared on the chart, buried like a splinter. Talia Ree said, "Voss Station?" The room chilled though nothing changed. Kai remembered a corridor lined with medals and mirrors. Rohan Tarek said, "We turn away and live ordinary, or we go and meet our answers." Mara Elgin said, "Truth does not vanish when we close our eyes." The reactor ticked, choosing no side. Kai Mercer said, "We go slow, we go ready, and we do not fire first." The Auriga angled toward the dark that knew their names. Kai Mercer woke from broken dreams with his chest damp, the ghosts of old battles chasing him through fractured stars. He sat in his cabin and pressed his hands to his eyes until sparks danced. Mara Elgin said, "Nightmares returned, because the wound is still open." Kai whispered, "I never buried them. I only locked the door." The hum of the Auriga felt heavier than before. He poured water and watched ripples tremble. Taliere's voice over comm said, "We drift into signal range, but no reply comes back." Kai stared at the reflection of a soldier he no longer wished to be. He muttered, "I walked away from war, but war keeps following." Mara Elgin replied, "You breathe here, not in yesterday." He nodded, though the ache never left. Shadows clung to the corners, waiting. The quiet of the observation bay stretched across starlit void. Mara Elgin stood beside Kai and leaned against the glass. She said, "You cannot fight silence with silence, Kai." He answered, "Words do not change ghosts." Outside, constellations blurred with their slow drift. Mara said, "You lead even when you refuse. That frightens you more than guns." Kai pressed his forehead to the glass, feeling the cold seep. He whispered, "I never wanted to lead again." She rested her hand gently on his arm. "But you still will, because others will look at you and believe." His breath fogged the window like surrender. In the council chamber of the orbital relay, voices echoed from shimmering screens. Governor Ardan said, "The outer colonies demand intervention." His silver tongue cut sharp. Kai Mercer kept silent in shadow, listening to manipulation disguised as reason. Ardan said mercy is weakness, strength is survival. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Mara Elgin murmured, "He weaves, lies like silk." Rohan Tarek clenched his jaw and muttered, "And people will follow." Ardan raised his hand, painting visions of control and order. Kai thought, "He makes cages sound like sanctuaries." The chamber lights dimmed as his words wrapped around the council like chains. In the cargo bay, the survivor sat alone, eyes flicking at every sound. Her name was Celine Ward, and scars ran like rivers over her hands. Talia said, "You saw what none of us can imagine." Celine whispered, "I saw shadows tear light apart." She clenched a fragment of alloy etched with alien glyphs. Kai Mercer crouched and said, "What still hunts you?" Celine's breath shook. "They do not hunt me. They wait for you." Mara Elgin frowned. The beacon ties to her memory. The bay's lights dimmed as if listening. Celine closed her eyes and murmured, "Some doors were never meant to open again." In the strategy room, maps flickered across the holotable. Mara Elgin said, "Something shifts in Rowan's voice when he speaks of Ardan." Kai Mercer answered, "He has eyes that weigh more than loyalty." Rohan Tarek leaned over the table, fingers tightening on control. He said, "Ardan knows the path forward, and he is not wrong." Talia snapped, "You sound like his mouthpiece." Rohan's eyes burned. "I sound like someone tired of drifting without command." Silence thickened. Kai thought, seeds of betrayal grow in shadows before they bloom. The maps pulsed crimson, as if echoing his fear. The Galactic Council chamber swirled with tension, voices colliding like storm waves. Kai Mercer said, "Every path you propose feeds the fires you claim to smother." A senator barked back, "Without strength we are ash." Hollow stars above flickered as if echoing their strife. Mara Elgin whispered, "They quarrel over who holds the torch while the house burns." Kai clenched his jaw, silent, watching leaders bot a fear for power. Governor Ardan's voice boomed, "Unity demands obedience, not hesitation." Talia muttered, "Obedience is his leash." Kai felt the eyes of the council turn, waiting for him to declare a side. He thought, silence is its own weapon, yet silence betrays as well. The chamber's glow pulsed red, heavy with unspoken war. In the war room, Kai's refusal thundered louder than any weapon. He said, "I will not take up arms for ghosts wearing new uniforms." Rohan Tarek slammed his fist against the console. "Then you abandon every colony that still believes in you." Mara Elgin raised her voice, "Belief dies faster than people when war eats them." Taliere's eyes narrowed. "He stands against bloodshed, not survival." Rohan hissed, "Survival without strike is surrender." Kai's silence hung heavier than his words. He finally said, "If survival costs our soul, then we are already lost. Shadows stretched across their faces as the lights dimmed. The docking ring groaned as the tragic hero entered. His name was Dorian Hale, eyes sunken with regrets, shoulders heavy with scars. Kai Mercer greeted him. "You still walk among the living." Dorian replied barely. He wore medals dulled with rust, each a memory that weighed like stone. Mara Elgin said softly, "The past does not kill you, Dorian, but it never lets you go." Dorian muttered, "Redemption is a word used by those who never fell." Talia Ree whispered, "And yet you came here." He nodded, eyes down. Kai thought, his ruin is a mirror of mine. The air between them carried both sorrow and warning. In the shadowed communication vault, a masked figure appeared in fractured hologram. The hidden ally spoke in a low voice. "The signal you follow is older than your wars." Kai Mercer said, "You know its source." The voice replied, "I know its hunger." Mara Elgin frowned. "Why help us then?" The figure tilted their head. "Because if it awakens, none of us matter." Talia Ree whispered, "You play both sides." The ally responded, "I play survival." Kai studied the shifting face, thinking, every truth they offer hides 3 lies. Silence pressed after the hologram cut, leaving them with more questions than answers. In the outer corridor, alarms blared as hostile drones streaked by the viewport. Talia Ree shouted, "Contact, skirmish inbound." Kai Mercer steadied his voice. "Hold shields but no fire." Mara Elgin said, "They probe, not strike." Rohan Tarek growled, "Probing breaks bones the same as war." Explosions flared across distant wreckage, painting the stars in fire. Kai whispered, "If I draw my blade, I become them." Talia Ree said, "And if you refuse, we burn with them." Silence carried his decision like a stone in water. He finally said, "We endure, but we do not ignite." The ship groaned as if disagreeing. The council chamber fell into whispers as Rohan Tarek's words cut deeper than any blade. He said, "Kai's hesitation will bury us all." Kai Mercer answered, "Haste buries faster." Mara Elgin spoke firmly, "Division is the true killer." Rohan slammed his fist, anger flaring. "I will not serve a man who fears action." Talia Ree muttered, "Action without conscience is execution." Silence weighed heavy as the crew stared at Rohan, realizing loyalty cracked. Kai thought, betrayal is not sudden, it is built stone by stone. The chamber lights dimmed as shadows sharpened the fracture between them. In the infirmary, the emotional catalyst arrived, a young scholar named Erin Vale, eyes wide with determination. She said, "You search for weapons, but truth is heavier." Mara Elgin touched her shoulder gently. "You carry hope like others carry arms." Erin whispered, "I found records of Voss Station. They spoke of peace before war claimed it." Kai Mercer frowned. "Peace buried by ambition returns as ash." Talia Ree said, "But ash still holds memory." Erin's voice trembled yet shone. "If you refuse to fight, then let me remind them why peace matters." Mara whispered, "Innocence is heavier than iron when it walks into war." The corridor grew colder when whispers turned into accusation. Rohan Tarek muttered, "You trust children and ghosts more than your crew." Kai Mercer answered, "I trust the living, not the dead weight of anger." Rowan's gaze burned with resentment. Mara Elgin stepped forward. "You mistake doubt for weakness, Rowan." He sneered, "Or maybe I mistake strength for chains." Talia Ree said sharply, "Your tongue carries Ardan's voice now." Silence lingered, broken only by the hum of engines. Kai thought, he has already chosen another master. The betrayal no longer hid in shadow. It breathed in plain sight. Kai Mercer stood alone in the captain's quarters, staring at the reflection in the glass viewport. He whispered, "Leadership is a crown I never wanted." Mara Elgin entered quietly, saying, "Crowns are heavy because they are meant to remind, not to glorify." Kai muttered, "If I lead them into graves." She replied, "If you refuse, you abandon them to someone who will not care." The silence between them stretched with unspoken fears. Oh. Kai closed his eyes and saw Lysandra Voss's smirk lingering from memory. He said, "War demands blood, and I have no more to give." Mara whispered, "Then give them your will instead." The command deck shivered with alarms as betrayal finally unveiled itself. Rohan Tarek barked orders into comms, "Shut down shields. Arden's fleet will not fire if we stand aside." Talia Ree shouted, "You doom us all." Mara Elgin's voice rang, "You sold us for nothing." Kai Mercer stared at Rohan, voice low but sharp, "You were never mine to lose, only his to gain." Rohan replied, "You speak of peace, but you chain us in fear." Sirens wailed, the ship tilted, and silence dropped over the crew like ash. Kai whispered, "This is how betrayal breathes, by pretending it saves." The chamber shook as Ardan's voice echoed across the galactic network. He said, "Voss Station will rise again, forged in order and fire." His eyes burned with conviction, convincing many. Kai Mercer whispered, "He cloaks tyranny in the robes of salvation." Mara Elgin said, "He believes his chains are crowns." Talia Ree muttered, "And others will bow to the shine." The council erupted in divided cries, fear and hope colliding like storms. Erin Vale clutched her tablet, whispering, "Their peace was written in lies." Kai thought, "Ardan's plan is not conquest but control, dressed as mercy." The air tasted of betrayal and smoke. In the dim quiet of the observation deck, Kai Mercer stared at the stars. Mara Elgin said, "Ardan was once your ally." Kai answered, "He was once my friend, before fire burned his heart hollow." Talia Ree asked, "What ties bind you to him still?" Kai replied, "A war that broke us both, but he chose power while I chose silence." Erin Vale said softly, "If you knew his fall, then you know his reach." Kai whispered, "He will drag us back into war unless someone stops him." Mara said, "And he thinks that someone is you." Kai closed his eyes, tasting the weight of history. In the hidden chamber of the relay, the mysterious ally reappeared, voice low. "The beacon's power is no signal. It is a weapon forged to bend minds." Kai Mercer said, "You knew, and still you guided us." The hidden ally whispered, "Because even poisoned maps show the road to truth." Mara Elgin frowned, "And what price will you demand?" The figure tilted their masked head. "Only survival, but survival is never free." Talia Ree muttered, "You led us in circles of shadow." Kai thought, "Every revelation is a blade pressed to our throat." The chamber lights flickered as trust thinned further. The tragic hero, Dorian Hale, stepped forward in the war room, scars gleaming under the glow. He said, "Let me carry this, for my sins demand it." Kai Mercer answered, "You carry enough already." Dorian whispered, "Then let my end mean more than my fall." Mara Elgin said, "Sacrifice is not redemption, it is surrender." Dorian shook his head. "It is both." Talia Ree muttered, "He cannot walk this path alone." Dorian's eyes brimmed with sorrow and resolve. Kai thought, "He seeks death as much as salvation." The maps flared crimson, as if marking his fate. The Auriga's deck thrummed with silence as Kai Mercer faced the impossible choice. He said, "If I fight, I betray myself. If I refuse, I betray everyone else." Mara Elgin said, "Choices are wounds we carry long after the war ends." Erin Vale whispered, "Hope dies if you walk away." Talia Ree muttered, "And hope dies if you fight and fail." Kai closed his eyes and whispered, "Then I must fight without becoming them." The hum of the ship rose like a heartbeat. He thought, "The galaxy does not ask for heroes, it demands sacrifices." The silence became his oath. The Auriga shook as enemy ships poured from the black, their hulls burning with Ardana's crest. Talia Ree shouted, "Fleet inbound, shields at half." Mara Elgin barked, "Brace all decks." Erin Vale clutched her tablet, whispering, "Hope must not die here." Kai Mercer stood tall and said, "No fire unless I give the order." Rowan Tarek's voice thundered over comms, "Stand down, Kai, or be crushed. Kai answered, I will not fuel his war. Explosions painted the void scarlet as the Auriga trembled, its crew looking to Kai not for orders but for conviction. He thought, the battle found me whether I chose it or not. The bridge trembled under strikes, sparks raining from consoles. Governor Ardan's voice filled the calm and cruel. Surrender and live, resist and burn. Mara Elgin said, he wraps fire in velvet. Kai Mercer replied, he fears our silence more than our guns. Talia Ree shouted, shields cracking on starboard flank. Kai said firmly, hold, let him waste his fury. Aaron Vale whispered, they believe he protects them. They must see his truth. Kai thought, truth is slower than fire yet sharper. Another blast rattled the hull, but the Auriga endured, silent in defiance. Betrayal struck when Rowan Tarek appeared on enemy broadcast. He said, Kai refuses to save you. I will lead where he falters. His face hardened with ambition. Mara Elgin muttered, he sold us for Ardan's leash. Talia Ree spat, traitor. Kai Mercer whispered, he chose his master long ago. Rowan's words spread across the fleet, poisoning hope with promises of strength. Aaron Vale said, they will believe him if you do not answer. Kai stared at the screen, voice cold. I will not match lies with louder lies. Silence weighed like iron as the crew watched faith fracture. The fleet pressed closer, drones swarming like fireflies. Kai Mercer said, we hold the line without striking first. Talia Ree shouted, they will cut us apart. Mara Elgin's voice rose, then let them see restraint as strength. Aaron Vale whispered, the galaxy watches. If you fight, you prove Ardan right. Kai nodded slowly, heart pounding. He said, then we bleed without surrendering. The Auriga trembled, but its guns remained cold. Explosions thundered outside, yet no fire returned. The silence of resistance grew heavier than the enemy barrage. Kai thought, our shield is not steel but refusal. At last the storm broke into a single confrontation. Ardan's massive flagship loomed, casting shadows across the Auriga. His voice filled the calm. One final choice, Kai. Lead them to order or to ruin. Kai Mercer answered, order born from chains is ruin disguised. Mara Elgin said, his empire feeds on silence. Talia Ree muttered, one word from you decides their faith. Aaron Vale whispered, do not fight for victory, fight for meaning. Kai closed his eyes and breathed, then let meaning be my weapon. The crew held their breath as the Auriga faced its greatest reckoning. The battlefield fell to silence, broken hulls drifting like grave markers. Kai Mercer whispered, we endured, though the galaxy sees only scars. Mara Elgin said, scars are proof of survival. Talia Ree muttered, we paid in silence where others paid in blood. Aaron Vale whispered, hope still breathes, faint but alive. Kai thought, victory without fire is harder than war itself. The Auriga floated, battered yet unbroken, and the crew felt the weight of what they refused to become. The infirmary overflowed with weary survivors. Mara Elgin moved among them, voice calm but firm. She said every wound mends if we choose to live. Aaron Vale whispered to Kai Mercer, you gave them meaning, not orders. He answered, meaning weighs heavier than steel. Talia Ree said, but meaning does not shield from the next strike. Kai thought, we survived today, but tomorrow waits. The hum of machines sounded like distant lullabies. In his quarters, Kai stared at medals sealed in a drawer, untouched by time. He whispered, I never wanted them then. I want them even less now. Mara Elgin said, they are reminders, not crowns. He replied, they are reminders of ghosts. Aaron Vale entered quietly and said, they are reminders of choice, and you chose not to become him. Kai closed the drawer and thought, peace is heavier than war because it must be carried every day. On the observation deck, Talia Ree said, we walked into fire and did not burn, but embers remain. Kai Mercer replied, The galaxy will decide if those embers light or fade. Erin Vale whispered, "Let them light with hope, not chains." Mara Elgin said, "Then we guard them like torches, not weapons." The stars stretched endless, as if listening. Kai thought, "We gave them silence, now they must give it meaning." In the final quiet, the Auriga drifted into the dark, battered but alive. Kai Mercer whispered, "I refused to fight, yet I still stood. That must be enough." Mara Elgin said, "Enough to change what follows." Talia Ree muttered, "Enough to haunt what remains." Erin Vale whispered, "Enough to remind the galaxy that silence can save." Kai thought, "Heroes are forged in blood, but peace is forged in refusal." The stars swallowed their path, endless and waiting.